Welcome to the edge of the world in 950 AD.
For a family living here, the sea isn't just a view.
It is a highway, a provider, and a constant, looming threat. Today, it will deliver something that could change their lives. Or end them.
Dawn breaks over the fjord, fog clinging to the Longhouse's turf roof. Bjorn, the father, emerges into the cold grey light of early morning. He sits on a stump, retrieving his whetstone and well-used iron axe. His scarred hand grips the stone, beginning the daily ritual of sharpening. The blade sings a rhythmic, metallic song against the abrasive stone. Astrid, the daughter, enters the dark byre attached to the main longhouse. She sits on a stool, beginning to milk the family's single precious cow. A stream of white milk jets steadily into the worn wooden pail. Knut, the son, scrambles skillfully across the jagged coastal cliffs. He reaches into a rocky crevice, searching for seabird nests. His hand carefully retrieves a single speckled egg from the crude nest. He places the valuable protein into a small leather pouch at his side. The isolated farmstead is dwarfed by the immense landscape of mountain and sea. Bjorn inspects the fragile wooden fence protecting their small garden plot. His hands use a leather thong to secure a loose weathered fence post. Astrid carries 2 heavy pails of water from the nearby freshwater stream. Clear water sloshes from the wooden pails with each of her determined steps. Inside the longhouse, Knut feeds a young lamb a handful of dried hay. The family gathers around the central fire for their simple morning meal. Astrid breaks off a piece of dense barley flatbread for herself. Bjorn eats a piece of dried cod, his gaze lost in the distance. A wooden spoon scoops a portion of thick, sour yogurt called skyr. The meal ends and each returns to their silent, unending cycle of labor. Bjorn shoulders his axe and walks towards the sparse woods on the hillside. Astrid carries a large wicker basket, heading down towards the shoreline. Knut's bare feet move surely over slick, moss-covered stones. The longhouse's turf roof, tattered by winter winds, needs desperate repair. Bjorn glances up at the roof, a heavy, weary sigh escaping him. An old crude patch is clearly visible on the elbow of Astrid's wool tunic. Astrid gathers seaweed from the shore, a vital fertilizer for their poor soil. She walks along the tide line, her practiced eyes scanning the debris. Her bright green eyes narrow, focusing on a strange shape far away. A massive dark form is wedged amongst the rocks in a small, hidden cove. She realizes it is a huge log and stops frozen in her tracks. Astrid turns and runs frantically back towards the distant farmstead. Her bare feet pound quickly over the rocky, unforgiving ground. Gasping for breath, she points toward the sea for her father Bjorn. Bjorn and Knut immediately run after Astrid towards the shore. The 3 of them race along the coastline with visible, breathless urgency. They stop before the enormous oak beam, their faces filled with utter awe. Bjorn's calloused hand touches the dark, waterlogged grain of the wood. The dense oak grain is nothing like the local pine and birch. Bjorn nods slowly, a rare spark of hope igniting in his tired eyes. The family gathers ropes and smaller logs to use as makeshift rollers. Bjorn ties a secure professional knot with the thick, salt-stiffened rope. Knut and Astrid wedge the round logs underneath the heavy oak beam. All 3 take the rope, pulling with their entire collective strength. Bjorn's face is red with strain, every muscle taut with immense effort. Astrid grits her teeth, the strong muscles in her arms clearly defined. Knut's bare feet dig into the sand, fighting for the slightest purchase. The oak beam inches forward, agonizingly slow upon the crude wooden rollers. Their monumental effort contrasts with the vast, indifferent shoreline. They pause to rest, gasping for air, their simple clothes drenched in sweat. Bjorn looks at the beam, then at his children, his resolve hardening. They pull again, their movements now more coordinated and rhythmic. A drone's view shows the tiny family moving the colossal dark object. The rope groans under the immense strain, taut as a Norse bowstring. Knut stumbles but scrambles back to his feet to pull once more. The beam rolls over a large rock, making a loud, jarring sound. They have finally hauled the beam from the soft sand onto firmer ground. Astrid uses a wooden ladle to pour water on the rollers to reduce friction. Steam rises lightly where cool water meets the heated, grinding wood. They are on the final stretch, approaching the farmstead's small, flat yard. With one last communal shout, they heave the beam into its final place. The beam settles with a heavy final thud onto the packed earth. All three collapse in exhaustion, but with a deep sense of triumph. Bjorn sits up, patting his young son Knut gently on the shoulder. A rare relieved smile appears on Astrid's dirt-smudged, hopeful face. The family rises, walking around the beam, admiring their incredible prize. The great oak beam lies in their yard, a promise of a better future. Astrid's fingers trace the rough, scarred surface of the foreign wood. Her fingers stop, resting on a strange, deeply carved symbol. A Christian cross, enclosed within a circle, is etched clearly into the oak. Astrid looks at her father, her expression now one of complete confusion. Bjorn stares at the cross, the smile instantly vanishing from his weathered face. The family's joy evaporates, replaced by suspicion and a deep, cold unease. Bjorn's pale blue eyes narrow, instantly becoming wary and watchful. A figure appears on the ridge above the farm, silently observing them.
To us, it's just a log. To them, this is a windfall. High-quality, seasoned oak is a treasure. A new roof, a stronger boat. It could even be a dowry for a daughter, a whole new start.
But treasures in the Viking Age, they always have a price.
The figure on the hill begins his descent. It is Hakon, the chieftain's man. Hakon walks down the slope with an easy, entirely confident stride. His well-oiled leather boots crunch purposefully on the loose gravel. Hakon arrives in the yard, facing the tense and suddenly silent family. Bjorn instinctively steps in front of his two children, shielding them from view. Hakon circles the oak beam, his eyes assessing its immense trade value. His gaze lands on the cross, and a small, knowing smirk appears. He declares the beam is the property of the chieftain by salvage right. His large silver ring flashes as he gestures towards the valuable timber. Hakon rests his hand casually on the pommel of his sheathed battle axe. Bjorn's scarred left hand clenches into a tight, white-knuckled fist. A silent standoff ensues between Hakon, Bjorn, and Astrid behind him. Hakon's cold, smug eyes bore into Bjorn's, asserting his dominance. Bjorn's eyes blaze with helpless fury, but he remains perfectly still. Knut, though frightened, grips the small wooden knife his father made him. The air is thick with unspoken tension under the harsh midday sun. Hakon's lips move, delivering a final, almost inaudible threat. Bjorn gives a slight, almost imperceptible nod of bitter, total defeat. Hakon turns his back and walks away with an arrogant, unhurried swagger. His retreating figure disappears over the ridge from which he first came. The family stands frozen, their brief, shining hope utterly crushed. A single tear traces a clean path down Astrid's dusty, tear-stained cheek. The oak beam is no longer a treasure, but a monument to injustice. Dusk settles over the fjord, painting the farmstead in warm amber light. Inside the Longhouse, the family sits silently around the crackling fire. Bjorn stares into the flames, his face a mask of profound defeat. Firelight dances in Astrid's eyes, reflecting her deep, silent worry. Knut watches his father, unable to understand the day's cruel events. Deep shadows fill the corners of the Longhouse, beyond the fire's warm reach. A sudden, sharp glint of decision flashes within Bjorn's haunted eyes. Bjorn rises abruptly from his low seat by the central hearth. His hand retrieves his sharpest carving knife from his small tool pouch. Bjorn takes his axe and a torch, stepping out into the cold night. In the flickering torchlight, he kneels beside the great stolen oak beam. Astrid and Knut stand in the doorway, watching with silent curiosity. The sharp knife begins to carefully cut the wood around the Christian cross. The blade's tip gently separates the wood fibers, preserving the symbol. Bjorn works with intense focus, the only sound the slicing of wood. Sweat beads on Bjorn's temple, reflecting the dancing torchlight. He uses the axe pommel to gently tap the carved squared piece free. A small, rectangular block of wood bearing the cross rests in his palm. Bjorn studies the beam's surface, now bearing only an empty dark hollow. He stands, leaving the now unmarked beam in a conspicuous place. The empty socket on the beam, a dangerous secret perfectly concealed. Bjorn walks back into the Longhouse, the heavy silence still unbroken. He approaches the hearth where Astrid and Knut are silently waiting. Bjorn opens his hand, revealing the wooden block with the strange cross. Astrid and Knut stare at the foreign object with quiet astonishment. Bjorn's hand gently places the wooden cross on the cold stone mantle. The family watches the alien symbol take its place at their home's heart. The firelight flickers across the wooden cross, casting strange new shadows. Bjorn sits again, his expression complex, staring at the new silent icon. The wooden cross sits in shadow, illuminated by the ancient hearth fire.
Bjorn's choice wasn't just about a simple piece of salvaged wood.
It was an act of quiet rebellion and of profound, dangerous curiosity.
He has invited a new, powerful, and transformative idea into his home. An idea that will ultimately and forever transform this entire world.